First alert. A war veteran with 2 rings is reinventing our defensive DNA. And the rookies love it. But time is ticking as our offensive star is 1 step out the door. Are we really risking the season by not paying him? And just when you thought IT was over, get ready for the earthquake in the NFC East. A rival beast wants to join. Guess who they want to play with? If you're not subscribed, you'll miss the moment when Washington makes the most epic move of the decade. Every second of this video is worth more than an touchdown. From the catastrophic decision putting us on the edge to Adam Peters' best-kept secret. Hit like now and claim your spot in what could be the wildest chapter of our history. Hit that bell, or you're crying like a Dallas fan. I think a lot of us had doubts about signing Von Miller, a 36-year-old player who's missed 15 games over the last 3 years and hasn't started in the past 2 seasons. But you know what? I'll tell you this. This man is showing. Why Dan Quinn signed him. Miller just made a statement that completely surprised me. After 2 weeks of training camp, he says he feels better than ever in his 15-year NFL career. He's not in the best shape of his life, but he feels better than ever. You know why this is great? Because he's talking specifically about Quinn's system. Look, this isn't by chance. Miller has played under several defensive coordinators and head coaches in his career. He was in Denver, where he won a Super Bowl with Wade Phillips. He played for the Los Angeles Rams, where he won another Super Bowl with Raheem Morris. He's been in Buffalo with Sean McDermott. But after just 2 weeks with Quinn, he's saying he's never felt better in a training camp. Do you know what this means? It means Quinn is not just talking about culture, but is actually implementing it. Miller specifically says, DQ does a great job. There's no pride or ego behind it. He's not trying to make the players tougher, just healthier, accurate in our playbook, and precise in our assignments. Listen up, Miller says Quinn isn't trying to make players tougher. He just wants them healthy, focused on the playbook, and precise in their assignments. This is exactly the mentality we needed after years of toxic coaching in Washington. But here's what's really exciting about all this. Miller, a 2-time Super Bowl champion, is telling everyone that his job is to ensure we have the best team possible. If that means working with young pass rushers, great. Talking to the backup safety, great. Giving input on special teams, great. And here's the part that amazes me the most about this statement. Miller says that now that he's the veteran, he's trying to be different from the veterans he had as a rookie. According to him, as a young player, there were so many veterans always going on about back in my day, and he didn't want to hear that. Now that he's the old head, he's trying to do a better job listening. Do you realize how revolutionary this is? We're talking about a player drafted in 2011 who has seen pretty much everything in this league, and instead of coming in to preach about the old ways, he's coming in to listen. He's coming to learn about these young players and what they need to succeed. This tells me that Miller genuinely believes this team has something special. A veteran of his caliber doesn't come here just for the money, especially when he signed for $6.1 million base, which can go up to $10.5 million with incentives. He could have gotten more money elsewhere. He came here because he believes this is his best chance to win a 3rd Super Bowl ring. Do you realize what this means for our defensive line? We have Montez Sweat, a brilliant acquisition last season. We have Dorrance Armstrong. We have Clelin Ferrell. All young players who can greatly benefit from Miller's leadership and experience. And I'm not just talking about technique or X's and O's. I'm talking about mentality. I'm talking about what it means to prepare for big moments. Miller has been in 2 different Super Bowls with 2 different teams under completely different systems. That kind of experience can't be taught in a classroom. It has to be lived. I'm telling you this, when you have a player of Miller's caliber talking like that, it's because something special is happening in that locker room. It's no coincidence Quinn had so much success so quickly last year. It's no coincidence he's now attracting world-class veterans who want to be a part of what he's building. If that surprises you, wait to hear this because the situation with Terry McLaurin is more serious than we all thought. I believe for weeks this would be resolved quickly, but ESPN's Jeremy Fowler just dropped a bomb that completely changes the landscape. According to sources close to the situation, the relationship between McLaurin and the organization is more fractured than people think. And you know what's most worrying about all this? McLaurin is willing to do whatever it takes to get this sorted the way he wants. Requesting a trade was the nuclear option, and he's already activated it. But let me explain why this is much more complicated than we initially thought. When McLaurin requested the trade, many of us thought it was simply a negotiation tactic, a way to pressure Adam Peters and the organization to speed up the negotiations on his contract extension. But what Fowler is reporting is completely different. He says his sources tell him McLaurin genuinely feels disrespected and undervalued by the organization. And here's the part that worries me the most. Fowler says McLaurin is willing to continue applying pressure until this gets sorted the way he wants. And what's the next step in this escalation? Fowler is reporting that the next move will be for McLaurin to completely forgo collecting his game checks. We're talking about a player who could sit out regular season games until he gets the contract he wants. Now, let me put this in perspective. McLaurin is currently in the final year of his current contract. He earned around $15 million last year. If he decides to sit out regular season games, we're talking about him being willing to lose hundreds of thousands of dollars per game to make his point. Do you think this is a normal negotiation tactic? I don't think so. This sounds like a player who genuinely feels disrespected and undervalued by the organization. And after all Terry has given this franchise during years of mediocrity, I understand his frustration. Think of it this way. McLaurin has been our number one receiver during some of the toughest seasons in this franchise's recent history. He's been professional, given everything on the field, never been a problem in the locker room. When we had terrible quarterbacks, he kept producing. When we had terrible offensive lines, he kept finding ways to get open. And now that we finally have a competitive team, that we finally have an organization that seems to know what it's doing, McLaurin feels that he's not being compensated according to his value and importance to the team. But here's the problem for Adam Peters and the organization. If they give McLaurin everything he's asking for, that could set a dangerous precedent with other players. But if they don't give it to him, they could lose their most important receiver just when the team is ready to take the next step. And Fowler is reporting something else that worries me. He says that if McLaurin continues this holdout, Washington could place him on some sort of reserve list where he would continue to collect his salary but not play. But that would be a completely different and much more complicated situation. Now, I ask you this. Can Dan Quinn and this team really aspire to repeat last year's success if our number one receiver is completely disconnected from the team? Because if McLaurin sits out regular season games, we're talking about a complete disaster for our playoff hopes. Look, I understand the salary cap is real. I understand Peters has to think about the team's long-term future. But I also understand that winning windows in the NFL are very small. Jaden Daniels is on his rookie contract. We have a defense that is improving. We have a head coach clearly knows what he's doing. Are you going to let this situation with McLaurin ruin what could be a special season? I hope not. And when you thought we were done, here comes the really crazy stuff that has all of the NFC East shaking. NFL.com's Eric Edholm just named the Washington Commanders as a potential destination for Micah Parsons if Dallas decides to trade him. Can you imagine this? Micah Parsons, the most dominant linebacker in the league, reuniting with Dan Quinn after 3 incredible seasons together in Dallas. We're talking about the same Quinn who oversaw Parsons during his best years when Dallas had a top 10 scoring defense for 3 consecutive seasons. But let me explain why this isn't just a wild fantasy from some writer looking for clicks. Parsons actually requested a trade from Dallas. This isn't speculation. This is real. He wants out of Dallas for reasons that are still not entirely clear. But it's clear that his relationship with the Cowboys organization isn't at its best. Here's where the connection with Quinn gets super interesting. Edholm specifically mentions that the odds of Dallas trading a generational talent to a rising team within the division are very low. But he also acknowledges that the fit with Washington would make a lot of sense. Why would it make sense? First, because of the personal relationship between Quinn and Parsons. We're not just talking about a coordinator who coached a player for a few years. We're talking about a relationship where Quinn literally helped turn Parsons into the star he is today. When Parsons arrived in Dallas as a rookie in 2021, Quinn was the defensive coordinator. During those 3 seasons together, not only did Dallas have a top 10 scoring defense each year, but Parsons established himself as one of the most dominant defensive players in the entire league. Parsons was Defensive Rookie of the Year in 2021. He was selected to the Pro Bowl all 3 seasons he was with Quinn. He was first-team All-Pro in 2021 and 2022. He had 13.5 sacks as a rookie, 13.5 sacks in his second season, and 14 sacks in his third season. All those years were under Quinn's guidance, and Edholm specifically says that the mutual respect is tangible. This isn't speculation. This is based on reports and observations from people who have seen these two work together. But let's think about what this would mean for our defense. We have Jonathan Allen on the defensive line, who is one of the best defensive tackles in the league. We have Darren Payne, who had an excellent season last year. We have Montez Sweat on the edge, who was a brilliant acquisition. If we add Parsons to that mix, we'd instantly be talking about one of the most formidable defenses in the entire league. Parsons isn't just a pass rusher. He's a chess piece who can play multiple positions. He can rush the passer from the edge, drop into coverage, and play the run from linebacker. Quinn knows exactly how to use Parsons because he did it for 3 years in Dallas. He knows what his strengths are, what his limitations are, and how to maximize his impact on every snap. Now, let's be realistic about the chances of this happening. Jerry Jones would have to be completely crazy to trade Parsons within the division, especially to a team clearly on the rise like Washington. But stranger things have happened in the NFL. And what if Jones decides he can't pay what Parsons is asking in his next extension? What if he decides it's better to get something for him now instead of losing him in free agency later? Also, let's consider what Parsons might be thinking. He sees what Quinn is building here in Washington. He sees a young and hungry team. He sees an organization that finally has stable ownership and competent management. He sees an opportunity to be part of something special from the ground floor. And if he really wants out of Dallas, wouldn't it make sense for him to want to go somewhere he already has an established relationship with the head coach, where he knows they'll use him the right way? I'm telling you this, if by some miracle Parsons ends up in burgundy and gold, we'd be talking about a complete game changer for our franchise. Not just from the field's perspective, but also from a credibility standpoint. It would be a statement to the rest of the league that Washington is officially back. Imagine it, Parsons reuniting with Quinn, playing alongside Jonathan Allen, Darren Payne, and Von Miller. We'd instantly be talking about one of the most formidable defenses in the entire league. The NFC East would be terrified. Summing it all up, we have Miller leading with a champion's mindset, McLaurin in a more complicated situation than expected, and the possibility of Parsons joining our defensive revolution. What do you think about the leadership Von Miller is showing in training camp? Do you think Terry McLaurin will actually sit out regular season games if he doesn't get his extension? And can you imagine Micah Parsons in burgundy and gold? Leave all your opinions in the comments because I need to know what Commanders Nation is thinking about these 3 explosive situations. If you think Miller is going to be the key veteran leadership piece we needed, like this video. If you think we should give Terry everything he's asking for to keep him happy, subscribe to the channel. This Commanders family is growing every day, and we need to stay united through these pivotal moments for our franchise. Tomorrow, I guarantee, We'll have more explosive news about our team, and you can't miss what's coming. And remember, hail to the Redskins.